The human-animal bond can enrich many people's lives, but for veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, service animals can truly be life-changing. Stay with us as we discuss vets and pets. Animals can bring so much to people's lives. They provide companionship and unconditional love. But for those who serve and those who have served, they can mean much more. Animals have an amazing ability to help people reconnect and to feel trust again. For veterans suffering from post-traumatic stress or traumatic brain injury, a service animal can be life-changing. Welcome to Veterans Voices. I'm Elena Kim. Tonight, we'll be talking with veterans about the animals they love and how those animals changed their lives. If you're watching, we want you to be a part of this conversation. Call us at 925-313-1170. Send us a message through Facebook at Veterans Voices 1, or email us at veteransvoices@contracostatv.org. We want to hear from you. And I want to introduce my co-host tonight. He is the new Veteran Service Officer for Contra Costa County, Joshua Zebley. Joshua, I think we have a picture of you and your dog. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Elena. I'm very excited to be here. I believe you see Selena and I. Selena is a half Anatolian Shepherd, half German Shepherd. I rescued her from a home in Sacramento. She really enjoys shedding all over my house and barking at cats. So I'm excited to be here today.
Well, she is beautiful, and we are happy to have you on the Veterans Voices team, Joshua. We couldn't do the show tonight without recognizing the importance of today's date. This show is airing live on September 11th, and we want to honor those that lost their lives and the heroes that saved lives on that day. And in the spirit of the show, I think we have some pictures of our canine heroes of 9/11. It was a day that all Americans should remember. Our first guests tonight are here in studio with us. Please welcome Marine veteran Mike Ergo and emotional support dog Valor to the show. And Mike, can you tell us a little bit about your military career and how it led to you teaming up with Valor?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate being on the show. So I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps from 2001 to 2005 and deployed to Iraq a couple times. I got home and I was a mess, post-traumatic stress, a lot of concussions I had from getting hit with some rockets and just having a rough go at it. What really helped me before I got Valor was actually an animal I got from the Animal Rescue Foundation initially, this little dog named Jose, who really knew me and was able to tell if I needed some extra love and attention. But just that, I really struggled with connecting with people, and being able to connect with animals was a lot easier. It was a nice bridge.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did Valor come to be after Jose?
So I got this dog, Valor, a few years back, and he was from Bergen University of Canine Studies up in Pen Grove near Petaluma. And he is a facility dog. And so I applied and was approved and went to a 2-week training to learn how to do all the commands he already knew. And so he comes to work with me every day, and he provides emotional support for the veterans who come and see me. And he'll lie down in their lap, or he'll just be pet. He'll play with people or just kind of rest and give them support as we're talking about really deep traumatic things. He'll be able to provide support just by being there.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you, Mike. And I can tell you just today, you and Valor have helped me get through my first show, or at least begin it. So I can see the connection that Valor has, and you as well, and Semper Fi. You did mention that Valor comes to work with you and provides support to service members that are in need. Do you feel like that's something that's natural to Valor, or is that something that you feel has to be trained for animals? I feel like a lot of that is something that's natural to animals.
I agree with you, Josh. So Valor was trained in a lot of different ways. He failed out as a personal service dog, but he was trained in ways like he can turn light switches on, he can tug socks off, he can open doors, he do all this cool stuff. But that emotional intelligence, he was just born with. So, for example, if I'm leading a group at our vet center, he'll go around and say hi to everybody. But what's really cool is that the people who really need it, he'll lie down at their feet, just like he's doing with me right now, just lying on my feet. And he just knows when people need somebody. And so that, I think, it just comes natural.
That's just his personality.
It sure is, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's why they're our best friend, right?
Exactly, that's it.
Tell us, Mike, with your experience with Valor personally, and you've seen him helping other veterans, what is it that you think it is about the human-animal bond that we find or other veterans find so healing?
Well, Elena, I'm glad you asked that. I really think that when a lot of us come back from military service, especially people with post-traumatic stress who have experienced trauma, have a hard time trusting situations, trusting the world, trusting other people. And so it's easier to find that trust with an animal who gives us that unconditional love.
Yeah.
And so
companionship too.
Yeah, companionship and just happy to see you all the time.
Yeah.
And so that makes it easier to know that you were loved and cared about by at least one being.
Yeah,
right?
That's awesome. I like that you brought up the being untrusting of situations and having a companion, because you can't always have, your friend by your side or your spouse by your side or whatever, right?
Exactly.
So having an animal in that situation that can be by your side, that's really awesome.
I can see how Valor is very relaxed, and that can also make others feel relaxed, right?
Yeah.
Because we all kind of feed off a different energy that I think is just something that they have and that we connect with without us really even realizing it, right?
It's so apt what you're saying, because it can go under the radar a lot of times. We just have these mirror neurons where we see other people or animals, and just we see someone with their posture relaxed, like he's very relaxed right now, and we can just imitate that, subconsciously. And so I asked, or actually was told by the people I work with at my office, that there's office life before he showed up and then office life since he's been here. And the atmosphere is just more relaxed by just him being there. So having an animal or a dog, it just really adds a lot for the climate.
Yeah, for the whole team.
Mm-hmm.
I work in the San Francisco County Veterans Service Office, and I know a couple of our sister neighbor counties have support dogs in the office, and that's the question I get from my team all the time. Can we get one for the office?
Well worth it.
I'm like, you can get one and you can bring them in, but we can't get one for the office. I love that you kind of distinguish Valor's role as a facility dog. How does that differ from the role of the service dog or the emotional support dog?
I think the biggest difference between the emotional support animals, service dogs, and facility dogs is this: service dog is for to take care of an individual. So Valor, although he provides many things for me, support for me, his role is to provide support for the people where I work.
Yeah.
And so the veterans coming in.
And do you have to keep him trained on how to do that? Or is it just like you were saying earlier, it's in his personality, it comes natural to him?
It comes natural, but every year I'll do a check-in. Someone from Bergen University will come over and they'll do a check-in to make sure he's sitting, lying down. If they drop something loud, he's not too distracted or gets freaked out, that he just has a good temperament, that he's up to date on his shots and everything.
Like an annual check-in. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, why don't we add Joe Moreno and his support dog, Eagle, to the conversation. Joe and Eagle, welcome to the show. Joe, can you tell us a little bit about your military career and how it led to you teaming up with Eagle?
Sure. Well, thanks for having us. We really appreciate it. So I joined right after 9/11. So today's a pretty important day. December 2001, I officially enlisted, and I served until 2015. So like Mike, I was also in Iraq early on. I was there for the initial invasion. And as time went on, I really just noticed I was always looking over my shoulder when we went places. I noticed I was quick to anger. A lot of those happy emotions I had before were really blunted and muted. but those negative emotions were amplified more than they should be. So it was a process. It took some time to one, just say I needed the help. But after that, it was going through the VA and really seeing, the standard of care and what they have to offer. And, for me, that standard of care just didn't work for me. So I knew I needed to look for other options, and that really got me out on the internet and just looking for alternatives. And I came across an organization called Canines for Warriors. And they train service dogs for veterans with PTSD, traumatic brain injury, or military sexual trauma. So once I got linked up with them, I applied and I was accepted into the program. I went through a waiting period. We had run into COVID, so that extended that a bit. But once I got there, they have a beautiful campus, and I got this guy. He's all over the place. But
how old is Eagle now?
So Eagle's almost 2.5 years old.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. So what's unique about him was he was actually abandoned at 9 months old.
Oh.
He was brought to a shelter and left. Canines got him shortly thereafter, and then they trained him for the next 7 months to be a specific test-trained service dog.
Wow.
And if those owners could see him now, he's such an amazing dog. He does so much for me, and he doesn't even realize it. He just wants to be by my side.
Oh.
Wow. Come a long way in 2.5 years. That's such a great story, Joe.
He's come a long way, and I've definitely come a long way since I got him.
That's amazing. I love that.
Kind of two lives were saved.
Awesome. Very cool.
Hey, Joe, thanks for joining us. I'm just wondering, we are wondering, has Eagle ever surprised you with any insight to your mood? Like I mentioned in the last segment, talking to Mike, where I feel like the animals, they kind of feed off us. They can tell if we need them without us really even, calling them over. Is that something that Eagle does as well?
Yeah, absolutely. And the timing of that question is great. I actually had an appointment this morning at the VA with my therapist. And being 9/11 and joining after 9/11, there's some emotion attached to it for me. It's very personal. And he was laying on my feet like he normally does. And as the conversation got a little more emotional, he actually got up, put his paws on my thigh, and he just started licking my face. And I'll be honest, the minute he did that, I started to cry.
Oh.
I couldn't hold back tears. One, just because the day is emotional, but two, because of how unconditional and non-judgmental something like a dog can be. And he climbed in my lap and he sat in my lap. The 70-pound dog sat in my lap for the rest of my appointment. So, yeah, I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, I didn't have to tell him anything. I gave him no commands. I didn't look at him. I didn't do anything. He just instinctually got up. We do have a command where I say my lap, where he will get and put his paws on my lap. I didn't give him any commands. He just did it on his own.
Wow, that's amazing. You can tell you guys have really built that connection. One of the amazing things about our show is that we hear this story a lot from veterans that they got out, they maybe went to the local VA or they tried something and it wasn't exactly the right fit. Maybe part of it fit, part of it didn't. So I love what you were saying, how you recognized that you had additional needs there. You went on the internet and you searched for this organization, Canines for Warriors. This is one of the largest organizations that gives service dogs to veterans. Can you tell our veterans who might be listening right now, what was it like to reach out to them and work with them?
So I really had no idea what to expect. I had just watched YouTube videos and looked at their website. But from the minute I applied, the application process is pretty lengthy, as it should be. They reached out, they connected with me. We did a short interview. Once I got accepted, they stayed in contact with me every single month for the next 2.5 years before I ever stepped foot on their campus. They reached out to me every month to check in. How are you doing? What do you need? Are there any resources that you need that we can help provide? So that pre-care, obviously COVID hit, so it extended that period, I had completely unexpected and blew me away. But once I got there, they have a campus in Ponte Vedra, Florida, where you go for 3 weeks to bond with your dog and learn how to use your dog. And for a lot of people to get back out in public for the first time in years.
Wow.
Training entails not sitting on campus, but they take us out to Home Depot. They take us out to all these, to the mall, to movie theaters with these dogs, because they're already trained.
Yeah.
It's us. We're the problem. So
They're training you.
part of it is building that bond with your dog, but learning how to go out in public again, where we would have avoided certain situations and just isolated, and now learning how to take a dog in public and use them the way they are trained to be used. And it's remarkable. And the campus is very tranquil. There's a pond, there's lakes, there's a lot of grass and greenery, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful campus in Florida.
Yeah, that's so great that you're sharing that, because I think for a lot of folks that don't have service dogs, they think I'll just call them up and they'll just drop a dog on my doorstep, and it's like really intimidating because like you said, you have no idea what to expect. So the fact that you're mentioning that they have these kind of wraparound services, this kind of check-in with you even before you have the dog, that's really amazing.
And in hindsight, had they not, this would have been a much more difficult relationship and process had they not had that full service. And as you said, the wraparound service continues after you graduate.
Yeah.
They reach out every single month. Awesome. How are you doing? How's your dog doing? What do you need? Is there anything that your dog's not doing that you need them to do? So that process continues, and they check in every single month.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, they've helped with anything. I mean, you name it, they're available to help. So I can't say enough about what they've done for me.
Canines for Warriors. Yeah, check it out. Awesome.
So, Joe, your story about your appointment this morning, it actually gave me goosebumps and made the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because I feel, as with you, with Mike as well, I have an animal that I don't feel is trained at all, but she understands when I'm going through something. So being 9/11, a lot of us being veterans, a lot of veterans watching, really gave me goosebumps. And I don't think there's any way an animal can know that today is 9/11, but they know what you're feeling, they know what we are feeling. I appreciate you both bringing your dogs on the show and explaining to us the difference between a facility animal, a service animal, and what's the other one?
Emotional support.
Emotional support. Thank you very much. But I think that all animals somehow emotionally support us without us really even knowing. I've learned something today. I appreciate that. To all four of you, and I'm sure I'm going to learn more in the next segment as well.
Yeah, I think that's really the message for tonight is there's different sort of classifications that we're learning about tonight, but really the message that I like to get out to our veterans is if something isn't working for you, you want to try something different, do some research, get out there. There's a lot of these really great organizations that can provide help. So thank you both for sharing with us. When we return, the Animal Rescue Foundation will join us to continue our conversation. But right now, let's speak to our special correspondent, Stephen Burchick, as he looks at the American Humane Society's Pups for Patriots program.
I'm Stephen Burchick, and I'm talking with Amy Rinn, Mike, and Justice from the American Humane Society about the Pups for Patriots program. Amy, can you tell me a little bit about the Pups for Patriots program and its mission?
Thank you for having us. When we think about veterans, we know that the return home from war is not the end of the battle sometimes. As one of the veterans in our program likes to say, they train us to go to war. They don't train us to come home. As you, I'm sure know, Stephen, 1 in 4 combat veterans are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and too often lack of treatment results in the taking of their own lives. But there's, real challenges to receiving effective mental health treatment, lack of adequate staffing, overuse of pharmacology, and as we know, there's a stigmatization of mental health issues in our country. So what can we do? How can we help these heroes who have so bravely protected our country and our freedom? And at American Humane, we feel the answer comes in the form of a wagging tail. So that's why American Humane launched the Pups for Patriots program. And we provide highly trained service dogs to support veterans who are diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder or traumatic brain injury at no cost to the veteran. So our mission is really to help those veterans diagnosed with PTSD through the power of the human-animal bond. Many of our veterans struggle with depression and isolation, and the service dog helps them get out of the house and start to live their lives again. With the service dog at their side, they can do things that we take for granted, going to a crowded grocery store, attending a noisy kids' soccer game. These dogs make such a tremendous difference in the lives of their veterans. And so at Pups for Patriots, we want to help as many veterans as possible through trained service dogs.
Mike, can you introduce your service dog and tell us a little about your experience with her?
My name is Mike. I'm an Air Force vet and also a retired law enforcement officer. And this is my service dog, Justice. We've been together 3 years now. And prior to that, about 6 years ago, I had to medically retire from my law enforcement career for medical issues. And when that happened, I kind of shut down from everything. I stopped doing everything that I enjoyed doing, shut down from family, going out. And after some much pushing from my wife, I went to the VA and I was diagnosed with PTSD and major depression disorder and major anxiety disorder. And I started doing some counseling and things like that. And I saw other vets with service dogs, and I seen how they acted with their dogs and how the dogs helped them. And I talked to them a little bit, and I came across the American Humane Pups for Patriots program and liked what I saw. They have a nice video online introducing the program, and it's completely no cost to the veterans. And so I applied, and they have a very streamlined process. I mean, it's really quick and painless, as opposed to some other programs where you could be on a waiting list for 2 years or more. Within a matter of weeks, I was returned. I got contacted by the American Humane, and within a matter of months, I was on the list to get a dog. And they're really good at what they do. They do a mental health interview over the phone with one of their personnel, and they come in, they do a home interview and see that the dog has a safe environment to go to. And during all that, they kind of get a gauge for your personality. Cause like when I was working, I was always on the go. I was very active, and they have this unique ability to put the right dog with the right person. Because when I met Justice for the first time, she was like a wild bronco in her kennel, and right away the bond was immediate. And we started going from there, and our bond has just gotten better and better.
Why is the human-animal bond so important, especially for veterans?
Yes. The human-animal bond is fascinating. It really rests on the assumption that there's something about animals that attracts humans. We have an innate need to interact with animals in nature. And there's accounts of animals benefiting human health as far back as 1860, when Florence Nightingale noted that pets were excellent companions for the sick. And since then, there's been animal assisted therapy and more interaction of animals helping human health. And so as those benefits have increased, we've realized that of particular interest is research on how service dogs can help military veterans. And so we're delighted to see that there's really been a surge of research that is demonstrating that some of these studies are showing that service dogs can reduce stress and anxiety levels. They can mitigate depression, ease in social reintegration, confidence in veterans. And so it's so wonderful to see that the research is showing what we have experienced personally with our veterans and Mike, that animals enhance our lives. And so in the case of veterans with PTSD, animals can be life-saving.
Like I said, when we first started bonding, it was a learning experience for both of us, but we've been together 3 years now, and like her main tasks that she was trained for are called blocking and grounding. Blocking being that I can put her in a position where she kind of gives me that little bit of a safety bubble so that people don't come right up on me, which I have a big personal space, so she's good with that. And then the grounding is like if I'm having an anxious moment or something like that, she'll do whatever she can to take and have my focus on her and get me away from whatever is causing that anxiety. But through our bond over the last few years, she's picked up on when I'm experiencing nightmares. She does nightmare interruptions. She'll wake me up out of a dead sleep if I'm having a nightmare. And that's not something that she was initially trained to do, but because of our bond, she's done it. And just like I experience migraines pretty bad, from time to time, she'll start licking the top of my head. And I don't know if it's a chemical thing that she's sensing, that I'm going to start having a migraine, or, you know, she just, for whatever reason, she does that whenever I'm starting to have a migraine. She'll start licking my head and everything. And like Amy was saying, with her, I've been able to cut my medication down for my depression to the bare minimum dosage, which is huge because I don't like taking meds if I don't have to. And I know there's studies out there where I believe it's something in the range of 92% of veterans that have service dogs, they can eliminate or reduce their dosage on medications that they are taking.
Well, that is great to hear. It sounds like that bond is real, and you've been experiencing it for some time. So, on behalf of Veterans Voices, I want to thank all three of you, Amy, Mike, and Justice. And Justice, we didn't give you much airtime, but we have seen you. So, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're talking about vets and pets. If you're watching live, we invite you to be part of this conversation. Call us at 925-313-1170. Send us a message through Facebook at Veterans Voices 1, or email us at veteransvoices@contracostatv.org. We want to hear from you. Now we want to add Air Force veteran Jeff Thomas, his support dog Maddie, and Rebecca Katz of the Animal Rescue Foundation to the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Rebecca, can you tell me a little bit about what the Animal Rescue Foundation does for veterans?
Well, we do a myriad of things. We have a Pets and Vets program, which is our training dogs to become service animals, as Jeff will tell you about, but we have much more than that. Now it is state law that requires public shelters to waive adoption fees for veterans adopting animals, but we've been doing that since 2011. Sorry, it's state law, California state law, but we've been doing that since 2011, and we've had over 1,000 animals adopted by veterans in that time. And they can just be, to your point, Josh, they can be comfort dogs. Dogs have dogs and cats. They have a really strong sense of what's going on with us, and strong sense of smell, strong sense of empathy. I don't know what it is, but they're amazing. And we also adopt out emotional support animals. If a veteran wants an animal that will be able to live with them in housing that wouldn't otherwise allow them, or public access to other places, California law allows emotional support animals to go a lot of places. And so with a note from a doctor, any veteran can get a emotional support animal. But beyond that, if they want to go beyond that and be able to fly with them or have access to federal property, we're looking to help them train them to become service animals. And we've had a number of veterans go through a program to train our dogs to become service dogs. The veterans are training them themselves, which is a pretty unique experience, I think, for many veterans. From start to finish, they're working with them and creating that bond and learning that skill, but also training them for their specific needs. So we heard in the previous segment about blocking. We talk about dogs creating perimeters for people who are uncomfortable in crowds, or learning compression therapy. If a veteran's having night terrors, the dogs may lay on them during the night. So that's sort of our program. And then we also want to make sure that veterans never have to reach into their pockets. So the adoptions are free, but we also provide food for life for our service dogs in training and graduates. And then we have every Wednesday a Wellness Wednesday, where we provide wellness care through our veterinary clinic to any animals of any veteran, or I should say any cats and dogs of any veteran. And we do as much as we can to support our veteran community.
And thanks so much, Rebecca. I appreciate you giving us the whole rundown there. And Jeff, you've got Maddie with you. Can you tell us what kinds of things does Maddie do for you, and how long have you had her?
I've had Maddie since she was 18 months old, and she's now 5.5. And she does some similar things that one of the other veterans was talking about, as far as I have some issues with anxiety and depression, and I don't like being around a whole lot of people. But again, when going to the mall or somewhere like that, I give her a command, and then she'll circle around me and give me more of a perimeter.
Space.
And I can do that a couple of times in a row, and then I can watch the people in front of me just kind of like split the waters, and they just get out of my way,
Yeah.
which is really nice. She's been trained for medication reminder. She can find my phone or my keys basically anywhere.
Nice.
What else does she do for me? So there's a lot of commands that she does. Well, as you can see in the picture there, I've taught her how to jump through my arms just to give her something else to do.
Cool.
And so anyway, she's just been a big help. I mean, before I had her, my wife would tell me, I don't know what Jeff's going to wake up in the morning. So since I've had Maddie, I think that's changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
So she's been a lifesaver for me.
Oh, that's so great to hear about that special bond. And I love you bringing the story of your wife coming in too, because a lot of times the spouses are the first ones to notice that something is needed, some additional support. And I'm glad that you took those steps and you found Maddie. So thank you for sharing that story.
Jeff, I can tell that Maddie is a family member to you. I'm correct? Maddie is not a pet, and I think that it kind of resonates with everybody that's on this call. She's a family member, Valor's a family member, Eagle's a family member, and without that, it sounds like, Jeff, that it's not even as easy to wake up in the morning, but you know you're gonna have that support. Can you just kind of, you hit on it a bit, can you kind of explain the feeling that you have towards, you know, this is not a pet, this is my family member?
No, I mean, other than my wife, she's my best female that I know. And so anyway, but I don't know, what's the question again?
Oh, you got it, Jeff. I think
hard
we
to
all understand
describe,
how special Maddie is to you, and how special all of these dogs and animals are. Rebecca, you know, not all veterans need a service dog. Can a veteran find an animal companion at an animal rescue foundation also?
Absolutely. So we work with our veterans. I mean, anyone can come in and adopt at any time, and we'll waive the adoption fee. But if they want an emotional support animal, and one that we've sort of identified as having the right temperament, we will definitely help match them that way too. So the matchmaking process is really important to us, and we're fortunate we have a really strong team, and even one of our team members is also a facility dog. We have a little dog, Mochi, who will sit on the lap of he's a French bulldog, will sit on the lap of a veteran coming in and comfort them and help them as we figure out what their needs are and match them with the right animal.
Jeff, what was that matching process like for you and Maddie? How much time ahead of it did you know that you were going to welcome her into your home? And some of our vets have talked about kind of the follow-up afterwards too. Do you have kind of check-ins still with our foundation?
Well, for me, I was in the service from 1975 to 1979, and when I got out of the service, I fortunate enough to get a job right away, and I was able to push all that stuff behind me. It didn't affect me much until after I retired, and then it gave me time to think about everything that's going on and the anxieties, and I mean, made my house like Fort Knox. Nobody could get in, and I didn't want to go out. And so I did go up to the VA. I went through mental health, and then I heard about the Animal Rescue Foundation's Pets and Vets through the Martinez mental health people. And so I contacted them, and I actually adopted Maddie a couple weeks prior to that, before I even know about the program. And so then I contacted them, and they vetted Maddie, said she'd be a good fit. So we went through the program, and because COVID hit, it was 2 years before they opened back up, and Maddie and I went through the program again because we were ready to graduate before COVID hit. So we went through the program again, graduated, and now I spend at least one day a week over there volunteering in the pets and vets area. They call me sometimes and say, hey, we need a neutral dog to help another veteran. Can you come over? I drop everything and go over.
That's awesome that you're able to give back. Yeah, that's really great.
I'm telling you, without that program, I don't know where I'd be.
Yeah, and thank you. I want to emphasize something you said, Jeff, about how you got out of the military, you were working, and so that work, that employment was really taking up a lot of the space in your mindset. And it wasn't until you retired that you really realized that, hey, there's some extra support that I could use here. And I love that perspective because we're hearing from veterans who realized something right away when they got out of the military, and then from veterans who kind of had this gap where they were able to fill that space with something else, but then eventually came to the realization that the extra support was needed. Rebecca, when you're meeting with veterans or hearing their stories, what's the mix here of veterans who are fresh out of the military and they recognize right away that they would like to have a support animal versus those who are coming in many years after their service and sort of interested? And are there any differences in how they approach you in your organization?
Yeah, it's not me, just to be clear. Our Pets and Vets director was unavailable tonight, but when she's meeting with our veterans, she's seeing people from all walks. I mean, we've had veterans who served in Vietnam all the way through Gulf War and more recently in Afghanistan. So we're seeing the whole gamut. And, you know, different people in different places. But, you know, I think I just want to thank Jeff, but also mention that I think it speaks to volumes to the program and the sense of community and that we create at ARF that allows us to have veterans like Jeff who will come back and participate. And that's really important to us because we want them to have that too. Yeah,
I love that. And the fact that you connected, Jeff, where you had your dog already, but you got the training, it brings something new, a different sort of experience versus the foundation giving you the animal.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, we had other dogs in the meantime before I got Maddie, but nowhere near the connection I have with Maddie that I did with the other dogs.
Yeah.
And it's just, her and I are a team.
Yeah, that's so great to hear.
Thank you so much, Jeff and Rebecca. We really appreciate it. And Rebecca, you did mention that you were part of the legislation for free adoption for veterans. I believe that's what you said.
I wasn't, but it's California state legislation requires that adoptions to veterans, certainly from public shelters, be free. We're doing it as well at ARF. The other piece of legislation is the PAWS Act, which ARF's program was sort of a model program for that. And coming from that, of course, as many other speakers have talked about, is the studies and recognition of the importance of dogs for veterans and in reducing suicidal ideation and helping with a lot of things from both physical and emotional support perspectives.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When we return, we'll bring back our veterans and their support animals and answer your viewer questions. First, we want to remind our viewers that September is National Suicide Prevention Month. It is an important issue for all who serve. If you or someone you know is having difficult thoughts, reaching out for help can make all the difference. Someone who cares and understands is only a phone call away.
Honestly, I'm not really sure why I'm calling. It's just...
I'm having nightmares.
My husband and I, we're just fighting a lot.
I can't get any sleep.
Things just keep getting worse, and it's starting to feel like I can't do this by myself anymore.
We could use some help figuring things out.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called. Why don't you tell me more about what's going on? There's no wrong reason to reach out for crisis support. Whatever you're going through, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help. Visit veteranscrisisline.net to learn more.
We're talking with veterans about the value of support animals. If you're watching live, we invite you to be a part of our conversation. Call us at 925-313-1170. Send us a message through Facebook at Veterans Voices 1 or email us at veteransvoices@contracostatv.org. We want to hear from you. And I want to welcome back all of our veterans and their support animals to our show. Mike, I want to ask you, was there a moment when you realized how much Valor could really change your life?
You know, it's been a lot of small moments, and there have been moments, I also have small dogs at home, but just to see how gentle he is, not only with people, but with other animals. Like, he'll sit up on the couch with us, but he's very careful when he gets up because he doesn't want to disturb, my little dachshund, who doesn't care. He'll just jump over his head to play with him.
Yeah.
But seeing him and some of the vets I work with really be an emotional rock and support for them and help them to do some of the really difficult work in therapy has helped me realize just how much I value him and not only for my support, but for what he brings to everybody in the veteran community that comes across him.
Nice, nice. And actually, I think we're getting a question from Zach in Danville. Zach is asking, and this is for any of our folks on the show, what can dogs do to help you if you're hyper vigilant in that situation where that comes up?
I can talk about my experience with Eagle.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
It's a great question because that's something that really was a primary thing for me. A big thing with Eagle, and what I noticed right away, was he got me out in public, but he was a great distraction because I was only focused on what he was doing. I was only focused on making sure I was giving him the right commands. And the repetitions of doing that over and over again have really helped to bring those symptoms down. But one of the unique things that he does is he has a command. We call it look, where if I'm shopping and I'm in a store, I'll give him the command to look, and he'll come from my right side or my left side to my right side, and he'll sit down and he'll face behind me. And if somebody approaches, he'll stand, and that alerts me that somebody's there, and I can turn, assess it, and determine, whatever it is I need to do. So he's really, really helped that, where I'm focused more on what he's doing. And then some of those commands, similar to other veterans, where he'll block and he'll do that look command for me.
Nice. Thank you, Zach, for that question in Danville. And Joe, I love what you said about how when you're out, you have something to focus on. I was telling Joshua before the show that I'm a hyper focuser. And so I, when I'm out in a crowd, it's like it's too much input. It's too many things to focus on. So I love that perspective and just knowing that that's how that they're helping you.
He really allowed me to breathe again. Every time I would go out, it would feel like somebody was standing on my chest because I was so overwhelmed with wherever I was. And just by focusing on him, he really allowed me to kind of take a big breath, relax, and I didn't notice the people around me. And it took repetitions. It wasn't the first time we did it, but it was repetition, and repetition, and eventually I could go through a store and not notice anything else around me other than him and I. And that's really kind of when the magic really hit.
Yeah, I love that. Jeff, can you tell us a little bit about the moment for you where you knew that this relationship with your service animal was going to work? Because I'm assuming that there is some kind of hesitancy at first, a bit of the unknown. Can you talk to us a little bit about when it became solid for you, that relationship?
That's a tough question. I mean, I really, I think for me, once I started in the Pets and Vets program, and probably after about the first, I don't know, month into it, and being able to go home and practice the stuff that we're learning each week. And, basically after we practice and stuff, it's like saying to myself, I didn't think about that. Or, I can leave the door open without worrying too much about anybody coming in. So it's just, like I said, it's just a number of things that made it work for me. It's hard for me to pick just one.
Yeah. Well, I love that you're pointing out that it's not just, what does the animal do for me, but it's also giving you the ability to think less about things that you would be focused on a little bit too much. So that's really valuable. Mike, what would you say? I know you've worked in a vet center before. What would you say to a veteran who's struggling with the same things that you were struggling with, but has never even considered having a service dog before?
I would say this, that the experience of being with an animal is different than trying to form a relationship with a person. There's many similarities, but they're not asking us any questions. We keep them fed, we take them on walks. They just want to be with us. And so it's a no questions asked, unconditional love. And it's something that helps even translate to our ability to trust other people again. And so, for those of us who have struggled with that, losing trust in either situations or people, we can grow that again with the help of an animal. And I was worried at first that it would complicate how I operated throughout the world, like going to the store maybe, or going out in public, but it's second nature to have a dog by my side now and have him at work. In fact, the days where he's not at work are the days where something feels off.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mike, Joe, and Jeff, I have a question for you. Prior to bringing your animal into your family, were you a dog person?
Yeah, I was both cat and dog person.
Okay.
But I didn't know the depth of how I could interact with a dog until I had some of the training that I did with Bergen University, and just learned how my mannerisms affected how he was and how his affected me, and then just that partnership that we have. And he's dreaming right now.
He's dreaming.
Hey, bud.
Oh, so sweet.
Joe or Jeff, how about you?
So I actually had a dog, still have a dog. I have a little small rescue mix dog, about 18 pounds. Love dogs, but it's just a different relationship. I think, Mike, you had mentioned about, little dogs and, Valor. I think it was Valor that you were saying was, even looked out for the little dogs getting on the couch.
Yeah.
And Eagle does the same thing. She runs the show. She tells him what to do. He's very, he's just very, very loving and caring, and wants to do right by everybody. So we were always big dog people, but the bond with a service dog is so different.
Thank you, Joe.
That's a great question. What about you, Jeff? Were you a cat or dog person, or how did you see yourself before?
We had both cats and dogs, and they both, would get up in your lap, and you could pet them. You start petting the cat until they don't want to be petted anymore, and then you get scratched.
They'll let you know.
You don't get that with a dog. They'll just, like somebody else said, the unconditional love. They just want to be near you. They just want to please you, and so they'll do just about anything for you that you want them to do, as long as you walk them and feed them and pet them on the head every once in a while. But we've been dog people all of our lives.
I love that. We've got another viewer question. Ricky from San Ramon asks, How can you trust a dog when you cannot even trust another person? And this is, I think, a great question. Mike, you want to start us off on that one?
Sure. I think some of it has to do with the fact that dogs don't have ulterior motives other than just getting treats, maybe. They want love and to be fed and to be safe.
Yeah.
And
simple.
so, yeah, it's very simple and it's very honest relationship.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
love that.
So that, once you're around a dog, I think Ricky's question is a great question, because once you're around a dog, you just get that sense that they're very simple. They have basic needs, and that's what they want is our love and affection. And if we
Yeah.
can give them that, they're satisfied.
Yeah, I hear you saying, Mike, that in reality, if you're struggling with connecting with other people, trusting with other people, it might actually be easier for you to establish a connection with an animal first. It's like you're giving yourself a stepping stone.
Completely agree.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
completely agree.
Very cool.
So the reason why I asked the last question, because I know you are all, you're out there in the veteran community. Someone comes to you and says, I'm dealing with these issues, and you say, well, I have a service animal, I have a facility animal, and they say, well, I'm not a dog person. Well, have you tried this before? I think, how do you tell them that this is not a normal animal, you need to give it a try? How do you get that across to them that this is going to change your life? And that's for anyone.
Joe looks like he's got something
Joe's
there.
ready.
I was going to say, I don't think I do a whole lot, to be honest with you. In those situations, because when he's working, obviously he's not, people can't pet him. So I'll give him a command to make a friend, and he'll go up and he'll just lay at their feet and let them pet on him, and he'll lay over on his back and, want belly rubs. So I think I talk a lot less and let him show more. I can talk about service dogs all day long, but obviously I'm a biased party because I have him and he works for me. But if I let him approach them and they're okay with that, they can see how unconditional and non-judgmental a dog is.
Yeah, that's so
like
great.
Mike touched on, just that unconditional love. And he doesn't judge me no matter what kind of day I'm having. His tail's going to wag whether I'm having the worst day in the world or the best day in the world. He just wants to be next to me. His tail's going to wag. He's going to lick my face and just be the crazy dog that he is for me.
Jeff, Mike touched on this a little bit. There might be some hesitation about, what extra steps do I have to now kind of undertake in my life now that I have this companion with me. Can you tell us what were some of the challenges and how did you overcome those? Was it difficult? Was it easy?
I would say the challenges with having a service dog, not only does she work for you, but she's a commitment. You have to, I've got to basically work for her as well as she works for me. So as long as I'm working for her and doing the things that she wants, she'll do anything and everything I want.
Yeah, you have to bring something to the table as well. And I think that goes back to the theme that we're hearing here is that, it is a relationship you're building and this creature is going to bring so much to you, but you have to bring something to the table too. And that's sort of bringing the veteran out of the shell a little bit and reteaching them about that exchange. Joe, what about you? What challenges did you find that you experienced with Eagle, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest challenge for me was, when we're talking about things like PTSD, those are not things that we want to wear as a badge when we walk out in public. A service dog now. We have a dog and we're in public. So for me, it was just overcoming not only being in public, but now having a beacon, if you will. There's a spotlight walking through the mall, and it's Eagle, or it's Valor, or it's Maddie. So for me, it was getting comfortable in just being out in public and knowing that people are going to see him, but they're not looking at me. They're just looking at this dog that's walking through the mall. So I think for me, that was probably the biggest challenge, was just getting back out in public with him initially and knowing that all eyes were on him and thinking they were on me. And so it was just a bit of an adjustment period. Like Mike said, now he's by my side. We go about our business. I don't notice it. We kind of do our thing, and it's a good time. He's my best friend. I mean, I got a best friend that's willing to do anything at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I've noticed that on set we have a rather large, medium-sized dog, and Jeff, I can see your dog behind you, and Joe. So do you think the public has this misconception maybe that service dogs and facility dogs, emotional support dogs, need to be some certain type of breed? And Rebecca, I can see you leaning forward, waiting to give us an answer to that.
Yeah, I'd be happy to answer that. We get requests for all kinds of dogs, small, medium, large, but honestly, a lot of our veterans are drawn to the larger dogs, particularly familiarity with shepherds or sometimes labs. We don't see as many of those, but the other dog that a lot of our veterans are drawn to are pit bulls and pit bull mixes, because they recognize that those dogs may be misunderstood the same way that they feel they've been misunderstood, or outside of society the way that they felt they've been outside of society, which I think is kind of a beautiful match. And some of our veterans don't want the dogs that people generally will come up to or be drawn to either, because they don't want people coming up to them. So we get people asking for all kinds, and all kinds of dogs can be service dogs. And if I
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Jeff, Joe, Mike, really quick speed round. You got about 5 to 7 seconds each. Are you happy that you reached out to take this step in getting a companion for your life?
I'm 100% happy. I can't imagine life without this little big guy.
Love it. Jeff, what about you?
I'd say no doubt. I mean, she's my best friend, just like Joe said.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way now.
I love it. What about you, Joe?
Oh, hands down, the best decision that I've probably made.
That's awesome.
Yeah, life-changing.
That's awesome. Well, pets can be really valuable to everyone, especially our veterans, as we've heard tonight. We've been talking with organizations that provide service animals, but veterans can also adopt a companion, as we heard tonight, at any public animal shelter in California, free of charge. And you can always find any resource that you need by contacting your local county veteran service office. So thank you to everyone for joining us. This ends our panel conversation for the evening, and I want to thank all our guests for sharing their stories with us tonight.
We hope you have enjoyed our conversation tonight. We leave you with some resources if you found our conversation inspiring. Canines for Warriors provides service dogs to veterans. Find them at caninesforwarriors.org or call 888-819-0112. Pups for Patriots is another organization that helps veterans with service dogs. Go to americanhumane.org or call 800-226-4645 to learn more. The Animal Rescue Foundation of Walnut Creek, California is a great place to adopt a four-legged friend. Reach them at arflife.org or call 925-256-1273. The Contra Costa County Animal Services Department provides a wide range of service animals in Contra Costa, including adoption of pets. Reach out to them by going to contracosta.ca.gov and scrolling down to Animal Services. Veterans Voices is brought to you in part by contributions from the Diablo Valley Veterans Foundation, dedicated to helping veterans near you, American Legion Post 246, honoring the tradition of the American Legion in Danville. If you'd like to help sponsor Veterans Voices, you can donate to Veterans Voices, care of Diablo Valley Veterans Foundation. Get in touch with them at diabloveterans.org. To rewatch tonight's episode, check back on our homepage later this week, or check your cable provider's schedule for rebroadcast times. You can also rewatch this episode and many others on our YouTube channel, Veterans Voices of Contra Costa. So be sure to subscribe. Our next show will air on Monday, October 9th at 7 p.m. We will be talking about transition, what I wish I knew. You won't want to miss it. To all of our veterans and their families, thank you for serving. To all of you tuned in tonight, thanks for watching and have a great evening.